Welcome to WholeCEO with Lisa G. I'm the best-selling author of The Boss Weight Loss. I'm bringing you the top tips to be unstoppable. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to actually pull up a chair with today's top experts in mindset, weight loss, business, and more. Learn our top tips so that you can have more energy, be fit and resilient, feel unstoppable, unshakable, and unbreakable. He's a certified fitness, nutrition coach, entrepreneur, and mindfulness practitioner. His passion is to help grown-ups navigate real-world business and life challenges to achieve their best health and wellness at any age. He's the creator and host of the Nairobi Health Show, which covers everything to do with health and wellness, including the latest in nutrition, exercise, supplement, and clinical studies. Welcome to WholeCEO with Lisa G. Dave Sherwin.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It's an honor to be here on your show.
It's an honor to turn the microphone around, having been on your show too. I love it. I love it. Let's jump right into the content for our audience here. How can we be unstoppable with your Undiet plan?
With the Undiet plan, well, you know, health is the greatest wealth, right? Like I'm an entrepreneur. I have big goals in business, right? But what's the point of the big goals in business? The point of goals is to have success in our life generally. And we can't enjoy any of that if our body doesn't work, right? And the older we get, the more we appreciate that.
Right.
And so, you know, health is the greatest wealth. And so, and I think many entrepreneurs take their health for granted. As a matter of fact, many entrepreneurs sacrifice their health for their business, which is a massive, massive mistake. And I have flipped that model on its head. In my world, everything starts with health, and then it goes to family and to business and to charitable causes that I, big on and things like that. And so without health, we can't serve or do anything else. And so the 7 principles of the Undiet are based on my 13 years in the weight loss and general health industry, my health certification. And it's my answer to what is a sane way that people can live in a way that they can eat and be fit and to live as long as possible and enjoy that lifestyle they're trying to create through their business.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's all about. And what I finally say is too many people, they're looking for stuff that is too hard, takes too long, costs too much money. And a lot of people, they don't respect the basics enough. Jeff Olson wrote a book called The Slight Edge. Have you heard of it?
Great book. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that book. And one of the things he talks about is mastering the mundane. And that's true in my business and it's true in my health. My general health plan and my general business plan looks kind of boring. Like if you're to watch what I do, watch what my team does on a regular basis, there's almost nothing that's super exciting. We just have mastered a handful of successful techniques that we do over and over and over and over. And that's what I also do in my health, just the boring basics. But most people aren't doing them, Lisa. That's what's amazing. People are like,
yeah,
well, why am I having this condition? What's the super product that will help me to feel better? Well, start with water, right?
That's my basic right here. I always have people start with water. I have like gallons of it lying around.
Yeah, me too. But what happens is it falls on deaf ears too often. And so when we actually ask people, like I do some free coaching. So for my clients, I offer a 20-minute free consultation if they need help, right? And when I ask that question in these 20-minute sessions, how much water are you drinking? Guess what the answer is? Usually it's,
I try.
I need to do better. Yeah, I don't do that well. Okay. Well, until you master that, let's not move on to the next thing. Water's free. It's easily available.
Right.
Good, clean drinking water is not a problem for people in first world countries. And so this mindset of actually mastering the very simple things is the thing I teach most.
I love it. And I love the way that you talk about don't go on to the next thing until you master the one thing, because habit stacking is a thing, isn't it?
It really is a thing. And again, in business and in health, we tend to underappreciate that. And so absolutely start with the basics. We're like contractors who build homes,
Right.
right? Who want to start with a fancy roof.
Right.
And
What a foundation, right?
let's do a foundation first. Let's put down some concrete and let's make sure it's level, right? And then we'll build a house on top of it. But if we build the roof first, it looks fantastic. And now it's a bummer because now we got to find a crane to lift that stupid thing up and we got to build underneath it and it's in the way. But this is kind of how a lot of people approach their health.
Right, because we all want that easy button. Dave Sherwin, I love everything you're all about. It's like, start with a foundation. There is no easy button. How important is it to have a positive attitude?
Well, our mindset, and along with positive attitude, our stress management plan. To me, those two things go hand in hand.
Mhm.
Is foundational, right? Because everything flows from our brain. And so it's funny, we talk so much about health, but one of the top contributors to poor health is having a negative attitude, a bad body image,
Right.
a sense of hopelessness, or I failed at so many things. Why would I think I can succeed at this thing? And so I think it's everything, but I actually think that even I would actually, speaking of foundation, I would say attitude is a level of the home, but beneath the attitude is our consciousness.
Right.
And so I think that the self-awareness and mindfulness aspect actually precedes attitude. And so
Absolutely.
personally, I think that a personal stress management and mindfulness and meditation program is actually the first place to start because everything else flows very naturally from that.
So before you guys are even starting with your foundation of hydration, you got to start with your foundation of attitude and relaxation and meditation. I wonder how important is it, in your opinion, for us to be unstoppable with meditation?
That's really a good question. I've been studying mindfulness and meditation for about the last 6 years. I wish I would have started earlier, but anyways, a very specific event brought me to really realizing that I had to make this a permanent practice. Now, in that study, I've studied Buddhism and various types of Buddhism. I've studied the various types of meditation from Dzogchen to Vipassana. I've gone to Sanghas, I've gone to retreats. So studying Buddhism, and also now I'm interested in Hinduism, or really it doesn't matter. It's not like religious for me. It's more about wisdom. For me, it's just extracting the wisdom from whatever discipline that might flow from.
Right.
But in that research, Lisa, what I've found, we really are different. There are people on this planet who just seem to be born with much more mindfulness and concentration than others. So it's a very personal thing. And so I do recommend a mindfulness and meditation program for most people, but I also understand there are people that just are absolutely natural, and it's a self-awareness thing. More often than not, though, I think there are people that think they're naturals and think they have really great control over themselves, who actually don't. If they're a little bit more mindful, they discover that they might. We tend to have kind of flawed software, Lisa, I think, in our self-analysis.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to be very, very humble in terms of that, and maybe ask other people along the way how they think and how they perceive us as far as our mindfulness, our level of concentration, how well we're able to stick with things, whether we're a single tasker or a multitasker. Successful people tend to be single taskers who don't choose too many things. They pick one thing or a handful of things that they focus on, and they see them through to completion. In entrepreneurship, we see this all the time. People are all over the map.
I'm like
they want
that. I'm like, I'm this.
Yeah.
I'm like YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and podcasting, and where does it end?
And they become very poor at a lot of things,
Yeah.
while someone else becomes a great YouTuber and builds an empire on mastering one thing. Now, I'm not saying you're limited to one thing. In my business, we don't do one thing, but we only have about 5. We have about 5 strategies, and we do them over and over and over and over. And I have a team of people that are experts. I'm not the person who has to understand or do them all, but we've narrowed it down to those that we can do well, and we focus on those. And so And so here I'm talking about mindfulness, and I just kind of went all over the map, right? You see how quick this happened.
I probably helped bring you there. Let's circle back to
Circle
the
back.
mindfulness and the self-awareness, because I love
Yeah.
that you mentioned that you could get an outside opinion if you're not that self-aware about how mindful you really are.
Yeah. For example, there's been a lot of studies on meditators, and what you find is that people who meditate for a long period of time tend to realize just how many thoughts they have and how much of a monkey mind they have. People who meditate for a short period of time often have what's called a false enlightenment at some point. Like at my first meditation retreat, for example, I had an experience that was so profound. It was so life-changing. I thought life is going to be different forever. My mind was expanded and blown, and I came home like walking on cloud nine, right?
Right.
2 weeks later, I was monkey mind again. Okay. Now the epiphany was still great, and I still remember it. And it still helped me level up. Like in a video game with 100 levels, maybe that took me from level 0 to 5, right?
Great.
But at the time, I thought it took me to 100.
That was a false sense, you're saying,
it was a
of
false
enlightenment.
sense. Yeah. And so people who are kind of new, they tend to overestimate their early peak experiences that often come. And they also don't realize just how far there is yet to go. And so, and this is somewhat captured in the 10% happier movement, right?
Yes.
You're not looking for too much. You're not seeking to become a completely different being, right? You're seeking lower atomic style goals, right? Of 10% happier, but totally worth it. If you ask anyone, is it worth it to do a simple 20-minute habit a day to be 10% happier? Who would say no? Right?
Nobody. It's so worth it.
Yeah. And so I'd say that committing to a long-term program doesn't have to be difficult. Find something that resonates with you. Find a teacher that resonates with you. I think that's valuable for 90% of people. And I think there's maybe that 10% that will get less value because they actually, for whatever reason, they're born with better software. They're quite mindful. I know a handful of them myself. They're very Zen by nature. And there's even stories of instant enlightenment in teenagers and people that just have an experience that weren't practicing. They weren't meditating. They weren't doing anything. But through some simple, unique experience, they have an experience that changes their life long term. So it comes back to self-awareness. But I'd say at least try a plan for a while and see how well it works for you.
I love the fact that you say some people are natural at being mindful, because I'm the opposite of that. Like I practice meditation every day, every night. I'm from New York and I'm just naturally anxious. Like that's why I gravitated towards fitness early on in my life and meditation and nature. I think nature is like my happy place. Like I know for me that I just have a little mantra. I'm not going to say what the letters stand for, but CTFD. And that just works for me. So I just know that some people are listening to this podcast, Dave Sherwin, and they're not seeing your beautiful smile, but you have such a great smile. And I want to know, how do you keep that energy going? How important is it for us to reduce time spent with negative people?
It's critical. And it's a really tough one because some people have a negative family. They kind of can't get away. And so they kind of have to just manage it. They have to just decide and how important is it for you as a positive person to be around negative people? There's a certain amount of unselfishness there too. So there's a management that goes into it. So for sure, there's some people that are toxic that we should just not spend time with.
Right.
Like if we're spending time with toxic people and they're not in our household.
Yeah.
Chances are that's just a mistake. But what if it's your mother or your father? And so in that case, I don't say avoid them, ignore them. They gave you life, right?
Right.
Some of us have toxic family members we're going to have to spend some time with. And maybe that's an object of meditation for us. And guess what? The other thing, Lisa, when we live a life of 100% responsibility, which I think is critical.
Right. Personal responsibility. I agree.
Yeah. And I'm talking about harsh responsibility beyond what is considered. What if we're personally responsible for everything? What if we're personally responsible for the way that person makes us angry, even though they want to make us angry and they're a toxic person, right?
Right.
When you take responsibility, even for that, that puts you on the highest possible ground to now actually have to think through, okay, I'm not just going to ignore them. I'm going to deal with this.
Right.
And I've had some toxic people in my life that I no longer have a toxic relationship with through taking that approach. So I think it takes a lot of really careful consideration and meditation and thought on how we manage those relationships. So number one, there's people, if you're spending time with people and you just have for a long time because they're an easy friend to be around, but they're bringing you down,
Right.
that might be one you just cut from your life. Right.
Right.
And seeking out positive people. There's people that just make you feel good, people that inspire you. And maybe we should be spending more time with them. And so, birds of a feather, they do flock together. I'm not convinced that you are, as rich as the 5 people you hang around with. I think it's a nice thought, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a good thought. There's general wisdom there,
Yeah.
but I think the general idea of choosing the people that are good for you and spending more time with them is definitely a good idea.
Well, there's so much to unpack there. I love the fact that you said that the power lies in taking total ownership of everything and then choosing in your environment as much as you can without deleting family members and people they absolutely have to be around. But even more so, like how you respond to them, how you internalize the toxins that they're lobbing out at you.
Yeah, if you take the attitude, I don't believe that offense can be given. I believe offense can only be taken, for example.
I love that spin.
And that spin, and it is a spin. It really is. Because let's face it, Lisa, if you and I weren't on Zoom,
Right.
and I started like tapping you on the forehead repeatedly, right? And I just didn't stop.
Right.
You'd have every right to be completely annoyed. I would be offending you. Okay.
Correct.
There's no doubt. But at the same time, many of our interactions aren't the person necessarily tapping us on the head repeatedly or slapping us or doing something obviously obnoxious.
Yeah.
And when we take this personal responsibility, first of all, it's really fascinating how often we find out our part in the relationship. We realize finally, because maybe we get to a sense of maturity or a level of maturity with this person, we can actually address some of these things.
The duality, there's always a duality in relationships, correct?
There really is. Even in those ones that we sometimes think it's all them, it almost never is. And so by simply pretending it is, even if everyone else knows they're an obnoxious person, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like, what can we learn too? Also too, aren't those people there to teach us some lessons?
Mm-hmm. Do they offend everybody? Why am I so offended by them? What exactly is it in me that's getting triggered? And when we take that on as our meditation and something to ponder, it changes everything.
I love how wise you are. Do you have any final tips for our audience about how they can be unstoppable in business, in life, in their health and weight loss? I know you've helped so many people lose weight.
Well, my 7, let me read you my 7. I don't want to miss any. Drink lots of water, eat slowly and mindfully, do intermittent fasting. That is not a fad. It's an absolute science-based method of having better health.
Right.
Eat healthy carbs, protein, and fat with every meal. You can play around with the ratios there.
Right.
Don't go low carb, don't go low fat. You need healthy fats, healthy protein, and healthy carbs. Have a simple supplement strategy. No matter how good you do, and I get some kind of biohack test every 6 months, Lisa.
Wow,
I'm an
I love it.
experimenter,
Me
and I
too.
want to know my levels.
Mhm.
And I have found that no matter how healthy I eat, there's certain things I'm deficient in. And so I have to supplement, do that. Next is exercise daily. We sit too much and we're too sedentary. And we need a personal movement plan that involves daily activity, even if it's just a walk or yoga every single day. It shouldn't be hard every day, but there should be days when we push ourselves, days that are medium intensity and days that are light intensity and mobility focused. And every day should have one of those. And last is get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day. And so that's what we call the Nairobi Undiet. We have a free PDF at our website if people want to download that. It's 10 pages long and it gives you a lot more detail than I just gave to you. But that would be my simple answer. Because like I said, everything else flows from that. Having a healthy body And that includes having a healthy brain, right? We can't have a healthy brain if we don't have a healthy body running the systems, right? If we don't get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, we're not flushing the brain of toxins that go down the neck in the middle of the night in our deepest form of sleep, right? And that affects
Right.
the next day if we don't get that. So this is all synergistic. All of these things go together. And when you do all 7, you can have amazing results.
Well, I love the Undiet. I'm so glad we can finish on that note because I know we only got to the water part in the beginning. So the Undiet, and where is your website? Where can people find more of Dave Sherwin?
It's Nairobi.com, DIROBI.com. And there's another, so that if you go to the resources page, Lisa, there is a download of that 10-page PDF for the Undiet. There's also a cool one you can just stick on your fridge that lists the 7 points. So they're right there to remind you before you grab the wrong thing to eat. And there's also one called the virtuous cycle that I think is really interesting that shows how all this works hormonally and energetically in a 24-hour cycle. And another one you could put on the fridge. So those are all free downloads I'd recommend.
Well, thanks, Dave. You're an awesome guest on the Whole CEO with Lisa G. I hope to see you soon.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming to Whole CEO with Lisa G. After over 20 years helping people lose weight and get fit, I'm so excited to announce that I found the missing link with my coaching. Message me if you want to learn how to look better, feel better, and go faster with a master. Lisa G at lisagfit.com.